Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, tonight, unfortunately, we've got some more black pill news. It almost follows on with what Academic Agent is saying, with the government doesn't actually like to seize power overtly, but instead covertly, with suggesting that instead it is down to individual businesses to make their own decisions, but of course they're suggesting the right path to take. And in particular, we've got COVID passports or vaccine passports, and they're going to be tested. Their trials are to begin with a live comedy night in Liverpool. So, of course, with Matt Halfcock and Bojo the Clown saying, well, hey, we're definitely not going to enact COVID passports because that would be immoral against the Magna Carta, and more importantly, just against the whole British ethos of which we have established in our great rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And yet, they're going with, we want to use them, so they're yellow. There you go. I hope you like yellow. Goes against the blue of the passports now that we've left the European Union. But the point is to say, yes, if you've been vaccinated, then you get a new passport in order to go to places which you would have been free to go to beforehand, but now you need an extra little bit of documentation in order to attend. And the key thing with this, for me at least, is to say, just like the idea of identity cards, which are blown out beforehand, it's another little bit of documentation in order to not only prove who you are, but also to say that you have received the mandated medication, vaccination, or whatever it is that you wish to call it, in order to attend the venues of which you were previously freely able to attend. And I think the only good news in this is that it is going to be used as a way to differentiate between the chains and the independent operators. That is to say that the larger chains are going to insist on vaccination passports, whereas the smaller or individual-owned venues, most likely pubs and restaurants, are going to say, no, we don't really care because we're more focused on being able to turn a profit after so long, because we don't have such a large windfall in order to fall back on. And that is the one hope that the rest of us have. So, I hope you do like your local venues and your smaller independently owned venues in order to patronise, because that seems to be the only choice that you have, for the time being at least. But, we are hoping that they're going to see a massive failure in the vaccine passports, because it is mainly the older folk, of course, who have been vaccinated, and they're the ones that are least likely to be out and about for youthful things, like comedy nights, for example. That when you're going for a comedy night, you're not really expecting to see over 50s there. It is most likely to be the millennials and then towards Generation Z and the 20 to 30-year-olds that are going to be there. In which case, they are not legally mandated to have had the vaccination yet, as in that they are not even eligible to have received the vaccination yet. So we're hopeful that, as you see in this photograph here, which obviously has to be ethnically diverse, and that is why so many seats are empty, because, they just have to find one that goes, oh, we've got a good makeup here of people that aren't British. As long as we see British people as the minority in Britain, then we're okay to publish this image, but that's the BBC for you, so I hope you enjoy paying your license fee for your TV. If you're like me, you just bloody don't own a television. But nonetheless, there you go. That's what they are wishing to support. So, the people that are most likely to go to the comedy night are the ones who are most likely to have not received a vaccination yet, in which case this entire trial idea seems to be doomed to fail, which is fantastic news. But if, and this is a humongous if, the Conservative government wishes to stay true to its word, then it is going to be down to the individual venues instead of actually becoming law. And as far as I'm concerned, they have two options here. One is leave it down to the individual venues, in which case they cannot enact their complete power, but are more likely to remain in power, and they have to just take that compromise as reluctant acceptance. But the other is to try and enact it in law, and therefore it'll lose and you'll have a hung parliament and a coalition government, because nobody is going to have significant support or majority support come the next election. And that is the decision that they have to choose between. Understanding that such a thing as a government mandated forceful vaccination, as in forcefully injecting you with something that you do not agree with, is actually going to be minority supported. Let's pretend that the vaccine is completely harmless, it does exactly what it is supposed to do, and it is effective at doing that. Okay, that is a big if, but nonetheless, let us pretend that. Even then, I do not agree with the government forcing us to do that to ourselves. And I doubt I am in the minority of thinking that. Obviously, we've already given over our rights for a gun registry and limitations on preservation of life and limb and our own self-defense. And therefore, you might think that it follows in order to say that, well, hey, if as a country we thought that it not important in order to defend ourselves from foreign and domestic threats, then we do not think it important to defend ourselves from domestic threats when it comes to injecting ourselves with things that we do not wish to be injected with. However, I think that brings it a lot more close to the bone, pun intended, that it isn't a what if. For example, what if somebody breaks into my house, but instead it is a no, this seems to be definitely going to happen, in which case I wish to do everything that I can to stop it. Similarly, of course, we're seeing a progression with the ideas of transgenderism and taking children away from parents, as they are doing in Scotland, and therefore I think, thankfully, it is getting much closer to a breaking point in order to say, no, I do not agree with what the government is wishing to enact. You do not have the mandate for such sweeping policies as this, and therefore I will find any way I can in order to find a way around this. And therefore, as sad as it is to say, I think accountants are going to be making a killing most of all, as well as small-time lawyers, in order to try and find a legal way around these implications and roadblocks of which the so-called Conservative government wishes to enact. And just to end on this note, I think that it is fair to say that the Conservative government is going to lose the support from a lot of right-wingers, having seen what has happened here, and think, well, hell no, if this is what you stand for, then I'm not going to support you, given that I am actually right-wing and you guys aren't at all. So perhaps that is the one small hope that we have, and therefore we hope that parties which were like UKIP and the Brexit Party now will exist, whether that be Britain First or the patriotic alternative, that we hope that they will actually rise to prominence much more. Either way, let me know what you guys think down below. Ideally, what you think is the best bet of the route out of this, because hey, that's what we're all hoping for, and my primary hope is of course an alternative. But as always, until then, Have a good one.